The Pac-12 announces their anchor media partner.
Media deals and conference realignment are always in the news, so we're back on the Big Mountain with an update for you.
Hey, welcome back to the Big Mountain. I am JY. This is my good friend Steve. Steve, we finally get an announcement from the PAC after much anticipation, at least for me.
Yeah.
I think a lot of PAC fans had a lot of anticipation too. This morning we get a Pac-12 announcement that CBS will be the anchor partner for the Pac-12 through the 2030-2031 season. The package includes at least 3 football games and 3 regular season men's basketball games to be on CBS and Paramount Plus. That's the main flagship CBS network. It also includes the football and men's basketball championship games to be on CBS and streamed on Paramount Plus, and there'll be other games then on the CBS Sports Net. They did not say how many games are a part of this deal in terms of what's going to be on CBS Sports Net. As of right now, this is only one of what we've been told will be several media partners for the PAC. Some people have said upwards of 4. I think it's going to be at least 2 or 3. We know it's going to be multiple. And this deal here, Steve, honestly is almost identical to what the Mountain West deal has been to with CBS. CBS was the anchor or the number one network with the Mountain West. They had 3 football games on CBS. There was a discussion about 5 maximum Friday games. Again, we don't know the details of what the PAC is getting and if there's any sort of inclusion of these non-traditional evenings, Fridays, Thursdays. We have no idea about that yet. And then they also stipulated they got the first pick with the Mountain West for certain games over other networks. I'm sure that's going to be the case here. If this is the anchor partner, they're going to get first dibs over whatever games that they want, just like they had with the Mountain West. Same type of deal with basketball. So it's very similar to the deal that the Mountain West has had here for many years. And remember, I would just say the Mountain West championship game, that's the only one that's a little bit different. The Mountain West championship game's on Fox. So here CBS is paying up and paying for the PAC championship games in football and in men's basketball. I'm not 100% sure what that means for the Mountain West, but we're going to be talking about the PAC here right now. We know CBS, the anchor partner. I'll be honest, Steve, I was a bit surprised by this. We've talked about this a lot. We knew about the CW. We knew the little bit of CBS. They took a couple games here this year. I just thought that was, they're going to take what they need. And I didn't really think the CW was going to be the anchor per se. But I'm a little surprised. What are you thinking right now? I mean, is this Steve, the transformational partnership you were expecting?
That's the thing is this is like a little bit surprising and then a little bit not surprising, and it really depends on what context you look at it
Sure.
in. I think if you just look at the PAC is basically it's Oregon State, Washington State, and the Mountain West All-Stars,
Sure.
CBS has loved being a partner with the Mountain West for many years now. They've loved having these programs on their network, and so in that context, it just makes sense for them to continue on. Now, the other context of what we were expecting a transformational partner, we thought CW seemed like they were really in on this.
Yep.
We thought maybe HBO Max, Turner, all of that, they would do some kind of a package. So I think from that standpoint, it's just surprising that they went with kind of the old standby. Now, there is room. It sounds like there's room for, as you mentioned, a few more partnerships.
Right.
So maybe we will see something else that kind of looks more transformational, different than what we've seen in the past. So a little bit surprising and a little bit unsurprising.
Yeah.
For me, the biggest question is with them locking in with CBS, and I think you kind of touched on this, is what does that mean? What are your thoughts on? Do you think that we could see where both there's enough room for both the PAC and the Mountain West on CBS going forward? I was listening to a CBS sports podcast today, and they were talking about how the company needed inventory.
Yep.
We thought ESPN might come in and grab some inventory.
Yep.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, let me start with my thoughts about the Mountain West partnership with CBS, because that was the thing I went, wow, this could be really damning for the Mountain West.
Right.
But you mentioned CBS talking about inventory, and Commissioner Gould actually had a discussion today, and I should have written down the pod. I do forget. I apologize. But she said the exact same thing. Her quote was, "We had more interest in our inventory than we had games."
Right.
Well, if partners want more inventory in the late time slot, which, Steve, I have been, not to pat myself on the back, but I've been using that I word a lot recently. And she said, we're a small conference. They're only going to have 8 or 9 members. That's only 3 or 4 games when they get in conference with bye weeks and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
That's 3 games a week.
Right.
That's not a lot of inventory that they're filling for multiple TV partners. Like CBS might want all 3, and I don't think they're going to get all 3 necessarily. So, the inventory is a big deal. I don't know what that means for the Mountain West, honestly. I'm a little torn. I think the inventory is important. I think CBS wants the inventory. I think that this is a mirror image of the Mountain West agreement. Was very surprising to me. It was. I was a little shocked by that.
I saw some jokes on Twitter, and I try not to get into the the gotcha games of people trying to one-up each other.
Yeah.
But someone said, boy, the Pac-12 now is basically the Mountain West. They have the Mountain West TV deal. They have the Mountain West schools. And so they were kind of taking shots at the Pac.
Sure.
Okay, you didn't recreate a Power 5 conference. You basically just slapped a new label on the Mountain West, which I thought was funny and interesting. But I do want to go back to your inventory statement real quick. Just kind of stay away from the pettiness, but more of the inventory.
Yeah, I don't want to go down that
route. Yes. The inventory thing I think is important because, and both of these conferences are mostly, later time zones, in the Pacific time zone, Mountain time zone. Yep. And I think we have multiple media partners, CBS, Fox, ESPN, that will all be looking for inventory in those time slots. And I know, there was like some Washington State and Oregon State were pushing to get more. We really want more early games.
Right.
But for both of those conferences, the value that they bring to their media partners is filling that nighttime inventory.
Well, I think your earlier games will potentially maybe the CW games.
Right.
Your 10 o'clock game is going to be what CBS wants.
Right.
Kickoff on the Pacific. Your 3 o'clock or 6 o'clock kickoff on the Pacific is going to be your CW games. It comes right after the ACC. So I could see that working really well for the PAC in terms of where that inventory kind of falls. And I don't think this means that CBS is done with the Mountain West. I don't think it means that at all. I do think it makes me take a step back on whether or not they're going to continue with the Mountain West. But I don't think it just means they're totally off the board. I would also say, we brought up ESPN. You mentioned ESPN. I kind of wonder, there was a lot of rumors that ESPN was mainly interested in PAC basketball. And maybe that's what they come in as, the secondary partner for basketball only, because did CBS kind of, outperform or outbid ESPN for this? That very well may have happened. Again, if they're looking at these certain time slots, we could have a situation, I don't know if we'll ever find this out or not, where CBS outbid ESPN for this package to be the anchor network.
It would not surprise me at all. We've talked over the last year about how Disney, ESPN, put all their money, all their eggs, golden eggs, in the SEC basket, and they were trying to cut back costs in other areas. They have MAC games, which they bid very low, monetary for those games. And so maybe they were hoping to get some kind of package like this out of the PAC, and CBS came in with a bigger bid.
And I think that very well could be. CBS knows what this inventory means to them.
Right.
They've had this with the Mountain West. They know what it means. So
new label, same schools.
Absolutely. So the other thing that I really find interesting, and they're not necessarily out of it right now, but man, TNT, this was one. Let's think about what they've done here recently. They didn't renew or they didn't continue with the Mountain West for this year. It was supposed to be a multiple year deal. That's now not happening. I thought for sure we were going to see TNT, and of course this is Warner Brother Discovery, but we talk TNT Sports, same thing. TNT was going to for sure have somewhat of some games from the PAC. They didn't for 25, so they are not showing any Western football in football season 25, it kind of makes me wonder what's going on. And I know what everyone's going to say. They have Big 12 games now, and they have all this other stuff. What are your thoughts about TNT?
So if you remember, I don't know, a few weeks back, maybe a month ago now, there was that announcement and I went off on X about it, about how they were going to break up now and split off Max. They were reverting to HBO Max name, and now they're going to split it off. And I said, fans get tired of this. Like, they finally get used to, they know what's on Turner. They know they can find those games streaming on Max. Yeah. And so all of these you have these corporate mergers, and then they sell off pieces and chunks. And so it just, honestly, my thought on it is they had a big mix up a year or two ago when they bought CNN and had the CNN Plus launch, and they did all this stuff, and then new corporate people came over and took it over, and they canned all that a month later.
Right.
So I just wonder if they're in some kind of just corporate where they don't want to make investments right now.
That could be.
Because they don't know what they are. Are they sports networks? Are they a streaming platform? Are they one big conglomerate? Are they separate things? Because we haven't seen them get, it was such high profile when they lost basketball, NBA. ESPN basically bought or leased their pregame show and postgame show, and what do they have left? What are they doing? What's their strategy going forward? We're not seeing them jump in for the Mountain West. We're not seeing them jump in for the PAC. We don't know what they're doing.
Really surprised. Still may be coming as a secondary, tertiary, whatever. Could still happen, but surprised as of right now. We're not going to see. We're not going to be watching any of this on TNT or True TV, whatever the heck.
And you and I really enjoyed the last couple of years. Yeah. Not only the what they were doing on the Turner networks, but then having that ability to stream those games on Max. It was just a great value.
Yeah.
So we'll see what they do going forward.
Well, the last thing I want to talk about is some more news about Texas State. Not surprising here. I actually told people on X, I'm not doing another Texas State episode. We'll add it on here to the end just as a little update. Not really an update for us. We've been talking about this for far too long. But Ross Dellinger did have an article about this, and then he got into basically just saying now that they have a media deal, they can look at adding an expansion. I don't call it expansion. Getting that 8th football member is really what they're doing. And he quotes and says, working toward a membership agreement with Texas State after a months-long courtship. And I would say it has been much longer than a month-long courtship. It has been many, many, many months. We've been talking about them, as I say, for far, far too long. I think the courtship is about over. We're going to know what's happening very soon. Everybody knows my opinion on where this is at and what's going to be happening here in the coming, at this point, I got to say days. I think if it doesn't happen by June 30, first of all, I will be blown away if it doesn't happen because, and you say, well, why is that, JY? Well, because the Sun Belt exit fee goes from $5 million to $10 million, June 30th to July 1st. And, if they're playing, who's going to flinch first in terms of a, partial media share versus a higher exit fee. And I'm not saying that's what's happening. I'm speculating. If that's what's happening, well, at this point, June 30th is going to tell us everything we need to know. I think they come together. I 100% continue to say what I've always said about Texas State. But we're going to know what happens with Texas State here within a week. I guarantee you that. What do you think?
So my main comment on this is I got to stick up for you on this because you've been saying this over and over again for a long time about Texas State. And the trolls on Twitter, they like to give you grief. And, well, sure, JY, you keep telling us this. And then we hear nothing. Well, the thing is, we all know this is where it's going. And now the big reporters are
everybody,
yes. Yeah. And you've been saying it for longer than anybody that I can remember. But none of us can control when the PAC makes these announcements.
Right.
The most plugged in reporters into the PAC, they were saying it could be announcements in April, could be in May, could be in June. And for whatever reason, whether it's mediation, whatever, the PAC has been dragging their feet on this. But at the end of the day, they're going to announce Texas State. You were right all along with that, but people get whine when they don't get it when they want it.
Wow.
And what does it really matter? If they end up announcing, if we find out July 1st
Right.
that on the 30th they send in their notification and we get the official announcement in the morning of July 1st and the PAC adds the Texas State logo to their little letterhead that they're doing on all their announcements, what does it really matter, I guess, at the end of, if it had been announced in April or May, we'll get there. It's just been slow, like pulling teeth of a process.
I will say, especially from the Texas State side, because we have a lot of dwellers that are Texas State fans. You know, as you said, we've been talking about it for so long. At this point, a lot of them, they're just exhausted. If we're gonna do it, can we do it?
Yes.
And I get it. I am not trying to string anybody along. And if they could have announced it 2 months ago, I wish they would have done it. Clearly, they couldn't. So we're not trying to string anybody along. I appreciate all the Texas State fans, but we don't make the damn decisions.
And, right, and if PAC fans are exhausted and annoyed by this, they should be exhausted and annoyed with PAC leadership that slow played this, not with you, who have been telling them for 6 months or whatever that Texas State was basically in the bag, was done.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
All right. Hey, well, we finally had some news to announce. We've been talking all this other mumbo jumbo of what might and what could, but now we know for sure CBS, the anchor media partner for the PAC-12 conference beginning in 2026. We'll have more announcements coming up in the not too distant future, and of course we'll bring it to you. Right? We'll be keeping our eyes opened. What is that? Eyes open and ears opened. Whatever.
Eyes wide open.
There you have it. Yeah. So, hey, we thank you guys for watching this episode. Again, if you're PAC fans, I think we have a lot more stuff to come here in the next week or two. So make sure you smash the like button and make sure you subscribe if you like our content. And we'll see you next time on The Big Mountain.